Alrighty, guys. So on the YouTube channel, on the Access Blockbusters Pod, thus far we haven't really had an opportunity to talk about the new live-action rebooted Harry Potter series coming to Max, and that's not because of anything in particular. I know there's a lot, to be said about J.K. Rowling, and we're not really going to get into that right now. But it's just more so because of the fact, and again, you're all entitled to your opinions and whatnot about how you feel about the property of Harry Potter and give it all that. But anyways, just putting that all aside. Kind of like how, the Ezra Miller situation, just looking at The Flash itself, looking at this Harry Potter series itself, right? There hasn't been a whole lot of concrete news. I mean, sure, there's concrete news insofar as it's happening. It's going to take place, over the next 10 years or so, filming-wise. It's going to be 7 seasons, we think. Maybe 8, who knows? And it's going to be much more faithful to the books. That's really it. We haven't gotten concrete casting. Sure, we've gotten rumors like the Brett Goldstein as Hagrid rumor, which is, it's interesting casting for sure, but nothing concrete. Well, that is all but changed because now Deadline has reported that we might have our casting for Dumbledore. And I have 2 thoughts on this. One more positive and one a little more, I'm not going to say negative, just a concern of mine. So, first of all, we have to say this again because I want to preface this by saying, why does he talk about all these different things, but he doesn't talk about, the Brett Goldstein stuff and whatnot? I really try in the Access Blockbusters pod to talk about things that are confirmed, all but confirmed. And if I want to talk about rumors, making very clear that I'm talking about rumors and not reports, right? And like I've been saying, again, you guys might be sick of me saying this, but it just has to be made clear, right? I don't talk about leakers and scoopers and whatnot just because, and I don't report them as news just because I don't think that they're on the same tier of reputability as sources like Deadline, that we're going to talk about right now, Variety, and The Hollywood Reporter. Doesn't mean that they don't get things wrong sometimes. And we'll talk about the fact that Warner Brothers seems to be either playing coy or just saying, no, that's not true, based on Deadline's report. But it's usually a good sign to take it to the bank if they're reporting these things. So, all that being said, we got a report from Deadline. And this report says we have our cast, or rather an actor, is very close to nearing a deal to play Dumbledore. And that actor is none other than JOHN LITHGOW. Now, JOHN LITHGOW he's a prolific actor. In this article, it points out, and I didn't even know this, he's a 2-time Oscar nominee and a 2-time Tony nominee. So he's very, very talented, obviously. We saw him, I think, very briefly in Conclave. I believe he was only in the film for a little bit. I could be completely wrong about that. Conclave, by the way, a film that I love. But he's doing a lot of stuff. He does a lot of stuff, right? He's in a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies. He's just sort of been all over the place in terms of, not in terms of, his quality of acting or whatnot, but just in terms of the projects that he likes to do. And I really respect that. So JOHN LITHGOW, and the article describes him as a beloved actor, playing a, one of the most significant roles in the high-profile series. And the article says this is in final negotiations to portray Professor Albus Dumbledore. And then, like I alluded to before, HBO has declined to comment, and their quote is, it's sort of PR speak. It says, quote, "We appreciate that such a high-profile series will draw a lot of rumor and speculation. As we make our way through pre-production, we will only confirm details as we finalize deals." So probably, I don't think it's necessarily them denying it. I think it's more just like, say what you want. We can't say anything until the deal is finalized. And sure enough, right? The article says that they're in final negotiations and not a finalized deal. So I think that is totally fair to say. Now, here's a couple things, right? I said at the beginning, I have 2 thoughts, one more positive and one more negative. So let's talk about the positive one first. You get talent, right? For any kind of series, but especially series as high profile as this. You got your Harry Potters, your Game of Thrones, your Last of Us's, talking about TV, and Andors and Daredevil Born Agains or whatnot. You get high profile talent, right? Any kind of high profile proven talent is good. And we're even talking about the movies as well. Like, remember for the MCU, getting people like Lawrence Fishburne and Michael Douglas, Robert Redford, Anthony Hopkins, it brings, not just a certain credence to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they're good actors. I mean, they're amazing actors, right? So, yeah, getting good talent, and JOHN LITHGOW is a talent. He is really talented as an actor, is always a good thing. And so, yeah, sign me up. Dumbledore, great. The article points out he is actually American, which is kind of funny. Obviously, Harry Potter being a British-based property. So, but again, the article then points out that he has played British people before. I haven't seen him play a British person, so I don't quite know how believable, like if his accent is terrible. Like, for example, every time I watch Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder, I I like Tessa Thompson a lot. Her British accent isn't fooling anybody, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So again, I don't know. Maybe he will be totally unconvincing as a British, Albus Dumbledore. But anyways, I think that's maybe less of the point, just the fact that they got a very talented actor. So that's the positive thing. Here's my one actually pretty glaring, and I would not say this is a small thing. I don't think it's like, those book fans who, I'm not talking about Harry Potter in particular, I'm just talking about, book fans of any property where they're like, that's not the right color hair, they shouldn't have that color hair, or his or her eyes are not the same color as described in the books, or they're not the right height, or what. It's not like that. Because again, for me, those things aren't important. They're really not important. I mean, stay true to the character, yes, but I mean, those kinds of things, it's like, whatever. Just be true to the character, be true to the story, and you'll be fine. That's my thought. Here's what's concerning to me, though. And I do not want to get into a morbid place because, talking about people's lives like this in a callous way is not something I want to do. So hear me when I say, I'm not saying this about the person's life. I wish John Lithgow a long, happy life. He is 79 years old. And this Harry Potter series is going to be going for 10 years, is the report. And I mean, that's believable, right? The film's filmed for about 10 years or so. And just based on production schedules, even if they try to get a season out every year, it's probably going to be maybe like a few months in between, and they're going to be filming for 6 to 9 months. So yeah, John Lithgow, as of right now, is 79 years old, which means by the time they start filming the first season, he's going to be 80. By the time the series is done, he could be 90 years old. And I mean, spoiler alert for the book series, but Dumbledore has a role in every single book. I'm sure a very small one in the last one, obviously. But he has a pretty significant role throughout the entire series. And actually, one of his biggest roles is in the 6th book, the second to last one, when he'll presumably be 88 years old. So it's a little odd to me, honestly, because, and again, not to get morbid or anything. I just want to, say this for context. Richard Harris, right, the first Dumbledore actor, who unfortunately passed away after the Chamber of Secrets, was much younger than John Lithgow is. He was 72 when he passed away. And I think Michael Gambon, who did a great job, I think, in my opinion, being a different kind of Dumbledore for sure, but fitting those darker movies, I think he did a great job. But again, I mean, I find it really hard to believe, and we're not even talking about passing away, we're not talking about any of that, just the fact that he would be up for filming really rigorous scenes in his late 80s, as the role of Dumbledore actually continues to expand as we learn more about him and his relationship with Voldemort and his relationship with Grindelwald and Snape and all these different things. So I don't know. I get it, like, get good talent, but there has to be some foresight into this, right? Like, there's a reason you don't cast a 30-year-old actor to play a freshman year Peter Parker. I mean, you could. I mean, they basically did that with Tobey Maguire. But, just as an example, like, it's maybe not the wisest thing because you want the character to grow as the series or as the movies go on. And so sure enough, you cast Tom Holland, and he is obviously a little older than the 14 or 15-year-old kid that he played in Homecoming, for sure. But, he grows into the role, right? And by the time the series, the original trilogy ends, he's a high school senior, and you believe it, right? You're like, yeah, this is an 18-year-old kid. I don't know. I'm a little confused by that, to be quite honest with you. I would, if this casting is made official, I would then be very happy that it's official, because again, it's talent. But I would also be thinking, okay, at what point does John Lithgow say, you know what, this might be enough? Or maybe he just wants to play Dumbledore until he's 90 years old, and if that's the case, good for him. So honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's not a concern at all, but it's just something that I wanted to point out, because that's the first thing I looked up, honestly. Not just because of... not just because John Lithgow is an older man, but just because in any of these roles that people are going to be cast in, this is a commitment, right? Unless you're playing Quirrell, right? Because there was a rumor that Cillian Murphy was going to play Quirrell. That's a half a year kind of commitment. That's fine. But if you're going to be playing Lupin, you're going to be there for at least 5 years. Sirius Black at least 5 years. Harry, Ron, and Hermione obviously are kids. Snape is obviously a 10-year commitment. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens there. But guys, are you excited? Would you be excited for the casting of John Lithgow as the new Dumbledore in the HBO Harry Potter series? Let me know in the comments down below.